All right, we have Alicia and Jenna. Tell me about your husband.
Okay, well, you want to know when we first met?
Sure, that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah, well, I actually had a class with him in high school and didn't see him for a long time. And then I was working as a manager at a convenience store close to our hometown. And he come in all those years later, and I found out he was a preacher. And so that interests me. I had just rededicated my life to the Lord, and I was impressed by him and the street ministry that he had. And so we began dating, and
Where was this?
this was in Tennessee, in Union City, Tennessee.
Okay. So you started dating.
We started dating, yes, and I ended up marrying him that same year. Pretty quick marriage. I knew that he had one daughter by a previous marriage, and that's all I knew about him. I figured, I trusted him. Being from the South and the Bible Belt, I grew up believing that preachers were all great, trustworthy. And so, and it was later on that I had a dream. I had a dream that he had another wife and a daughter. So I asked him about it, and he confessed to me that he did, which he didn't tell me before. So these were young daughters too, like 12 and 6 years old. And yeah, we married, and things began to change some. He wouldn't work very long. He did construction, but wouldn't work very long. He wanted to work a little while and then draw unemployment. And then a couple of kids come along. And so we began our journey in street ministry. I was on the streets with him, and he spoke in churches. We would travel to a city and sit up there on the corner and tell people about Jesus. And, that was wonderful. I loved doing that, and I loved him very much. But then things began to crumble. We were in Nebraska, and he said, "Oh, here we can go to a YMCA. You can work out after having children." And I was so excited about it. I thought that would be great to get back in the gym. And we was driving along, and I said, "Oh, well, there's a YMCA in this city." And he looked at me and he said, "You want to go to the YMCA?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Why?" And he just got real angry, and he floored it. He was going 85, 90 miles an hour. He said, "Are you going to keep saying something about going to the YMCA?" And I said, "No, I won't say anything else if you'll slow down." And so he did. And that was kind of the beginning of the control, the intimidation, and the fear that it instilled in me. And he would throw things. If I didn't agree with him, he started throwing things. And that was kind of before she come along. She's the middle child. And so I guess you want to pick up something now?
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm already crying. I didn't expect to start crying this early, but there were several incidents in my life where I watched my siblings be hit and abused and choked. One incident that comes to mind was when we lived in Hornbeak, Tennessee. I believe I was about 14, and we had this house we were trying to build. It never got finished. But while we were working on it, me and my brother, my dad's friend Jerry, and my sister all stayed in this shed. And my dad, my mom, and one of my other sisters stayed in this RV on that same lot. My dad was very controlling, and he told my sister, don't go in that RV. Well, apparently she did. There was some kind of misunderstanding, and there was one of the most violent incidences I've ever seen in my life. My dad grabbed my sister, threw her over this bench. It's like a park bench we had outside, and grabbed a piece of wood and began to just relentlessly beat her again and again and again. And I remember hearing her scream. I was out by the shed at the time, and she had these loud screams that I can still hear even when I'm talking about this now. And I guess he got tired of hearing her scream because he took her sweater off and stuffed it down her throat and threw her back over the park bench and continued to beat her with wood. My brother counted over 80 times. The man that was my dad's friend that was there saw it. He was actually a former captain of a SWAT team. He was a former police officer, but he was a supporter of my dad and let it happen. He continued to beat my sister. He would set her down in a chair, and if he would try to get her to talk, she was choking, she was crying. He'd throw her back over with her sweater down her throat. She was around 11 years old, very skinny. And all of a sudden, I heard my dad say, Alesha, and time kind of stood still. And I was thinking, oh no, I'm about to experience what my sister just experienced. And I was walking up the gravel, and I could hear the gravel underneath my feet. My mind was telling me to run, but my body was walking because I knew to come to his voice. And I get up there, and my sister's still laid over the bench in this position with her shirt off, her sweater down her throat. And there was a scratch, a bloody scratch on her back. She's still held in that position while he's sitting down in a metal chair. And he says, hey, pick up this wood. And he had me pick up all the wood that he broke over her back. And he hit her so hard, over 80 times, that the wood broke. And I picked up all the wood and I put it in the pile like he said. And I stood up and I said, is that all you needed? And he said, yes, thank you. And he smiled at me. And I remember seeing him grab at his jogging pants because he had an erection and he was trying to keep it down in his pants where I guess it wasn't noticeable. But he was aroused off of beating my 11-year-old sister with wood.
What do you think she was? What do you think he was hiding? Was it the shed that she went into?
He wasn't hiding anything. It was just what he said goes. So if he says jump, he would say, if I say jump, you say how high. If I say don't do this, he would say, take it like God said it to you.
Yeah, but there's probably something that he had in that shed that...
Or the RV that he
RV,
didn't want to
yeah,
say.
RV,
I'm not sure. I'm really not. I don't know what it would have been.
What kind of street preacher was he, Jenna?
Well, I mean, he just stood on the street corner, held a sign that said Jesus saves. And sometimes he would speak scriptures out. And we were out there together some, but mostly him. After I had the children, we were not out there. He would minister to people that come up to him on the streets, tell people about Jesus.
What religion was he?
All religions.
All religions.
If he went in a Baptist church, he was Baptist. If he went in a Methodist church, he'd say, I got part of it right because I was raised Methodist. And Pentecostal. Now, I don't know that we went maybe in one Catholic church, full gospel churches. There were no Jehovah Witnesses. I can't remember. Let's see.
Like Assembly of God.
Assembly of God, yeah, that's full gospel. And Assembly of God was really a lot of churches across the country, mainly in Kentucky, Kansas, And we lived in Utah for a while, Indiana, and Illinois,
New Mexico, too.
and New Mexico. Absolutely.
So the tirade that you just described, Alesha, that was something that happened more than once, or things like that?
Things like that happened pretty often. That was one of the most violent incidents that stick out in my mind, but I remember another episode. When I was 15, it was May, and we had went to a Presbyterian church that morning, and that afternoon he would get in these modes where he would want things done a certain way. When we would wipe the table, he wanted it wiped in a certain motion. If we lined the shoes up, they had to be in a certain way. Things in the fridge had to be facing forward, like a grocery store. He was very specific about how he wanted things, and there were very harsh consequences if he didn't get his way. There was one incident where it was after that Presbyterian church that morning. He called me outside and was like, pick up around this gravel area. There wasn't really any trash, maybe one bottle cap. There was some pieces of wood. We lived out in a very wooded area, but he wanted the gravel, very, very spotless. And I was on my hands and knees trying to pick up different pieces. He had his finger and was like pointing right in my face, like, go there, go there. And I got frustrated, and I was just like, okay. And all of a sudden, he picks me up by my throat with his hand like this, grabbing my throat right here, and lifts me up to him. And I am shaking, and my brother is standing there. And it's like, Daddy, because he knows this was pretty extreme. And I try to put my hand on my dad's arm because he's lifting me so high off the ground. Like I said, I was 15.
Lifting you by your throat?
Yeah, by my throat. And I put my hand, he says, put your hand down. He hollers at me, I put my hand down. And he's looking at me, looking in my eye. And all of a sudden, I feel something poking my body. Me and him are nose to nose. And I looked down very briefly, kind of like this, because he still had his hand on my throat. And I realized he had an erection, and it was pressing against my body. And I kind of glanced, I looked back up at him, and he smiles at me because he realized that I had felt his erection. And he throws me to the ground. I'm blinded by tears trying to pick up, these pieces of wood, whatever I can. And he picks me up again by my throat and then slams me to the ground, the gravel. And briefly after that, I go inside, and I realized I had lost control of my bladder and wet my pants, because when he was strangling me, it's like black kind of started to close in. It was so awful, so violent. And I remember trying to cough because I knew if I coughed, he would send me in his room. We didn't have air conditioning throughout the house. He had it in his room. And he would send me in his room and kind of played like he was being sympathetic towards me in front of my mom to make sure he could kind of cover up what he had just done. And he sent me in there. He came in there, he sat down. My mom was sitting in there, and he said, honey, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And I said, oh, I just got too hot outside. And he said, is that it? There's nothing else going on? And I said, no, because I knew better than to say something in front of him to my mom. And my mom said, I don't cry when I get too hot. Like, she knew there was something else going on that I wasn't saying. Well, he kind of grins at me because he realized he successfully silenced me without having to tell me to stay silent at all. And he leaves the room briefly, and my mom looks up at me, and she doesn't say it, but she goes, because apparently my older sister had been strangled the week before that. And I said yes, and I just remember her shoulders going down. And, sorry, I keep crying. And looking disappointed and frustrated, like she just didn't think this violence was ever going to end, like there was no way out. And I leave the room to go get my makeup and come back in because we had church that night. And so I start to try to get ready for church, and when I come in the room, I make sure my hair's out of my face because I know there's got to be a mark on my neck from that. And I come back in the room. My mom sees there's a bruise on my neck. And she said, "What's that on your neck?" And she realized it's where he had strangled me so hard. And she said, "That's a bruise." And I remember her saying it out loud, like you have a neck on your bruise. You have a bruise on your neck from where your daddy strangled you. It's like she was in such disbelief she had to say it out loud to hear her own self say it. And she goes out and she's like, "Alesha has a bruise on her neck." And he comes storming back in the room. She gets out a camera to take a picture of it. There's a light on me right in my face on my neck. And I'm just standing there shaking because I'm like a goner now. He didn't kill me before, he's going to now. And she takes a picture of it as he's glaring at me. He has this vicious glare like, "You better figure this out. You better fix this." We didn't end up going to church that night. My mom made him leave the home, and he was gone probably about a week. He wrote several letters saying he's repented. What he's done is washed under the blood of Jesus. His past is gone. He was forgiven by God. We should forgive him. He used a lot of I statements like, "I've been changed. I'm a prophet." But he never said, "I'm sorry." He never apologized to me for doing that to me.
He describes himself as a prophet.
Yeah, he called himself the priest of the home, king of his castle, master of the castle, sent by God.
Had a chair too.
He had a chair, a king chair. We would sit on the concrete floors and sometimes listen to him talk for hours and hours. And thank you so much. And he would brag about all the different countries he's been to and the states he's visited and the work he's done. He said he was a prophet called by God. The street preacher.
At what point, Jenna, did you start having doubts about being married to him?
I had doubts throughout because it started on lies when I had the dream and confronted him. And then as time went on, there were times that were better, but then it was like an emotional roller coaster. I was walking on eggshells, wondering when he would be mad again, what would happen, if the children would be in the car and we would just crash into the ditch. I just never knew. So it was a constant eggshells. As time went on, it got worse. He ran for county commissioner in Cairo, Illinois. And he won the Democratic nomination, but didn't get the county commissioner. And so during that time, this was in 2005, 2006, he was very violent and very abusive during that time, hollering a whole lot at the kids. I remember one time I said, "Don't holler at them. Please don't holler at them." And he just pushed me all the way back on the couch, and I hit my head on the dresser that was back there and had like a big knot on my head. And he just kind of looked shocked, I guess, that I flew through the air, but got up from that. He never, apologized, come to see if I was okay. As a matter of fact, we got ready and we went to church about an hour later. And my eyes were bloodshot. I looked in the mirror. They were just really, I don't know if it was a concussion. I wouldn't have been taken to the hospital if it had been. I do know that. But I kind of want to go back to right after the older two children were born. And this was a very bad time. It was. I want to backtrack a little bit. I was going to share this, but I realized you want what happened a little earlier as I go through. So he had been on a mission trip. He called himself a missionary from America to America. And so he had been gone a little while. Well, he comes in, and the older two children were babies. They were twins. They're twins. They were 1.5, and they were in their cribs. And he just comes in, and he didn't say anything to me, but it was sexual abuse. He just started right in, just attacked me, tore my clothes off, threw me down on the bed, and that was it, you know. I was helpless. So I got up, and I remember being in a fetal position in the bathroom corner, hearing my babies. My baby's crying in the next room. And I wasn't mentally able to get up and go in there and take care of them. And so I got up, and you know, you would think that would be enough. Well, that happened, and that would be enough to leave somebody. But I trusted him as a man of God. I felt bad, but I felt like maybe it was my fault. Well, he's been on the mission. Maybe it's anxiety and stress, and I'm the person that needed to be there for him to take it out on. And so I just forgive him. I forgive him and went on through the years.
You were married for how many years?
24.
It's a long time.
It is. It is. I never believed in, you know, my parents were married 50-something years, and it just wasn't an option for me. I didn't see it as like, well, if one thing happens, just leave, just get out. I'm just not that type of person. I believe when you marry, it's supposed to be forever. But, you know, God is not abusive. And I do know that now. And, you know, God helped me through it all, but he would use the children to get me under control. So he said, well, if you do this, then they won't have to be out of school and work tomorrow the whole day. I do need some workers now out there. Well, the work he meant would be pulling weeds around the house, which there's nothing wrong with that in itself, but it's the control and the manipulation and the way, the smirk on his face when he would be telling the kids what to do, that was hard. And if they didn't toe the line, you know, we all suffered for it.
And he was married before he met you.
Yes.
Do you
2 or
know?
3.
He was married before he met me, and then he married one woman 2 times. And then he slipped and told me that there was a woman in Texas that he was married to, not for very long. So I don't know if there's other children or not. He's not, you know, mentioned those to me.
And how did he take the divorce?
Oh, that was, I had to prepare, because I knew that he would just leave. He would just leave. So when he was gone, I had to prepare for that. Went to a lawyer, and I had started a face painting business back in 2013. And the money from that, I began to save.
This was for kids?
It's face painting for kids.
For parties
yeah.
and things like that?
Uh-huh. It started out, I was doing it free at churches, and he was all for that. But then I began to get other calls for events and kids' birthday parties and festivals, that kind of thing. And I began to make money doing that. So when he was going on a mission trip, I would put back the money. And I know that sounds like deception, and I've thought about that a lot. No, it wasn't. It was my way to get out with my children at some point, because the reasons you don't leave is fear, no money, and no support. And I had aging parents, I had no money, and I had a lot of fear that he would come after me. And so, no, he didn't take the divorce very good. As a matter of fact, if my lawyer hadn't had somebody waiting at the house when he returned, when he come out, it wouldn't have happened. But I knew how he operated. I knew you had to catch him right then, or it wouldn't have happened.
And where is he today?
I don't know. I wish I did.
He travels, he moves.
He doesn't have a permanent address.
He uses like a P.O. box. So the people that donate to him now, I bet, donate through a P.O. box, or when he's at a church in person, like Clinton, Kentucky, or Water Valley, Kentucky, several different places, even New Mexico, and sometimes out of the country, like Trinidad and Tobago.
If he does work, he probably gets cash, so his Social Security number won't go into the computer. He does owe lots of money on child support. I had a 13 and a 15-year-old daughter, not her, and when we divorced, I did not even know that I could get child support when I went to a lawyer. And she said, yeah, you can. Well, it turns out, no, I can't. Because you can't get blood out of a turnip, right? And, that's just it. Or you cannot corner somebody if they move around. Child support services tried to get him, and he just disappeared from that place. Moved to this one.
So you guys don't talk to him any?
No. I haven't spoken to him, I believe, in 8 years. The last time I saw him was in court. And he would do things to try to embarrass us. Like after my mom left him, he went outside my sister's school with a Jesus Save sign and stood outside the school to try to attempt to embarrass her. There's nothing wrong with like sharing God's word. I'm a Christian. I still love God. But using God to put others down is blaspheme, and it's perversion of the scripture, and it's using God's name in vain. And he came outside I went to a college in Martin, Tennessee, and he came outside my college and walked up and down the sidewalk with his Jesus Save sign. He carries a red wooden cross about this size. It's duct taped with red tape on it, and was trying to embarrass me. He called the school to see like what my financial status was. I found out, telling people that I had failed out of college, which was a lie. This week, actually, right now is my last week of graduate school. So I'll have my master's in social work.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I want to help victims of abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, religious abuse, any way I can help. So.
And where do you guys live now?
I live in Troy, Tennessee.
Yeah, I live not very far from her too.
Dyersburg.
Yeah, Dyersburg, Tennessee.
This is Western Tennessee?
Yes.
Northwest,
yeah. And your life was improved, Jenna, since you divorced him?
Yes, I've been out 8 years, and it's vastly improved. The amount of pressure has just been lifted off, but we still have a long way to go to be completely healed. It might take a lifetime to to get over it. There's things that trigger us now, trigger me. Like there could be some music, there could be a slamming of a door, there could be somebody hollering across the room, you know, at a Walmart or, you know, a convenience store or anything. And it's just like, it triggers you back to the time that he did these things. I do insurance now, and yeah, and I'm enjoying that and get to meet people, but you know, I still love God, and I believe that as Christians we do have to forgive, but when somebody tells you that, it's like it's an excuse for bad behavior. Like, okay, well, he told me, well, you gotta forgive me. You gotta forgive me. I'm washed in the blood. Yes, I do. When you repent, you're forgiven. But that means to turn away from and not do the same thing again and again and again.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for letting us share.
Yeah, I'm glad you got away from all that.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
All right.